You are watching Issues at Hand on Church of Uganda Family TV. Thank you for joining us this morning. My name is Bruno Edgard. And of course, Issues at Hand is brought to you by Protea Hotel in Tebe. Yes, as we are starting the new year, Happy New Year first and foremost to you from everyone here on Issues at Hand. But as we start the new year, there are many people who are getting married this year. There are many people who are taking their businesses to the next level by having conferences. So if you want to have a wedding reception, Protea Hotel in Tebe is the place for you. If you want to put up a conference, Protea Hotel in Tebe is the place for you. So make your reservation and booking today. Or if you are still on leave, because for many offices, there are many offices that are still not actively in operations this week, you can make your way there and enjoy your remaining days of leave as you start the new year. But here we are not leaving things alone when it comes to pertinent discussions here on Issues at Hand. And today I am once again joined by Mr. Weraga Erisa, and who is a very senior environmentalist. And today we are talking about the effects of environmental degradation. So thank you and welcome to the discussion. Welcome back to Issues at Hand, Mr. Erisa.
Thank you, Mr. Bruno Edgar, for giving me this opportunity again to educate the nation or the world about the importance of protecting the environment, because every life on earth depends on wellness of the environment.
Indeed, and that's why it's important that we have these discussions. But before we talk about the effects, first and foremost, what is environmental degradation?
Environmental degradation is misusing the environment for obtaining the resources on which our life depends, without considering the survival of future generations. Future generations include your son, your grandson, include the engineer there, the engineer's son, the engineer's child. You can imagine your, God forbid, your child being carried away by floods because the same child you sent him or her to put wastage in channels because you did not know the after effect. So it's about misusing the resources in the environment for our survival without considering future generations.
Can you give us a few examples of this misuse?
For example, after peeling the banana peelings and the poison papers, mineral waters and so on, you put it in a dusty bin and go and dump it in a waterway. That is the easiest. Again, cutting the forests and without planting, permanently depriving the land of the forest cover. That is another nearest one. Another one, you can see how the researchers in cities, our cover up there is all full of the clouds made of the fuel which comes from the borders, the vehicles and so on. So we are getting that water down here, acidic water. Another one, I want to give very easy examples. Another one is agricultural products. Some agricultural products are really dangerous, and we use them in spite of having been burnt in the, who we call colonialists. We call them colonialists, but they were preserving the environment here. Like DDT. There is a certain gentleman called Ruchamzi Ken who was fighting for the environment. I don't know why he slept. DDT, we use it extravagantly, but it is causing cancers, breast cancers, causing colon cancers. We eat it on tomatoes. Some people don't wash the tomatoes, but they find this chemical there, and it causes breast cancer and colon cancer. Many cancers are very common now. The list is very long. But we are in an emergency about environmental degradation. In an emergency, really.
So the problem is human activity.
Is human activity. Exactly. Exactly. It is we human activity. And when we are in HSC, there's a writer called Kent. I again have to mention that he said, when the teacher was starting the topic of ecology, he asked us, what do you think is the most dangerous animal in the environment? Many of us said crocodile, and others said leopard, others said lion. He told us, look at the first page on ecology in Kent. It is stated that if you want to know the most dangerous animal in the environment, go home and look in the mirror. But of course it was obvious. When you look in the mirror, you won't find a leopard, you won't find Edgar, you know who you'll find there.
You find yourself.
You find yourself. We are the most dangerous animal in the environment. We are the most dangerous animal in the environment.
So how have these human activities then led to environmental degradation? We have seen some of these human activities include a very big challenge you have here in Uganda is wetlands. People occupying wetlands. So some people might be asking themselves, so what's the problem with occupying a wetland? It's just free land with rainwater, and it's a swampy area. What have been the effects of human activity on the environment?
And it is very unfortunate. When you start, there are some things I fear to mention. For example, Mr. Nsereko on BBC yesterday, on CBS, he was praising a really very rich man that this rich man, billionaire, he has not got a PhD like a professor, but he's a billionaire. And yet, when I was in LOC last week, the council was fighting with him for filling the wetland to construct houses for people to rent, a wetland in Kampala. And he was a billionaire, Nsereko was praising on BBS. That's a very big problem. We lack awareness. We are not educated. A wetland being filled with land by a millionaire? And these are the opinion leaders, as we shall see in the end. That's where the problem starts, with opinion leaders not being aware about the effect of degrading the environment. Wetlands. God created wetlands as a correction for cholera bacteria, as a correction for Ebola bacteria, as a correction of tetanus, as a correction for dysentery. There in the wetlands, as a collection for mosquitoes to lay, as a collection. These mosquitoes are food for fish and so on and so else. The wetlands have papyrus to filter the water before it goes into our important water sources like Water Victoria and so on and so forth. Wetlands are very important. That's where we get evaporation to make clouds, water to come back to us. But when you attack them, in Guterres' words, you know Guterres, the president of the United Nations.
Yes, the Secretary General.
The Secretary General. He said that when you fight nature, it fights back. As we see here in New Vision today, the year nature fought back. Can you say it? The year nature fought back. It really fought back.
In what ways does it fight back?
The floods. You can go in Lufuka here, Zana. There's a gentleman, Muko Investment. His vehicles every season, the water goes up to our head level. It is fighting back because you have blocked it. Where is it going to pass? And it fights back. People drink water which has been contaminated with the sewage. They get dysentery. They get cholera. Another, for example, is the COVID pandemic, which has refused to stop in China, because due to unsustainable development, China cut all the forests and occupied the wetlands. These organisms' home was destroyed. Now they started looking for where to survive and where to their another home, and the home was people. For example, the pangolin which were harboring the COVID-19 virus, they were eaten and the forests were destroyed. So they had to occupy to find another home in humans. That's why it is not ending in China, where the virus was living the wetlands which were destroyed. That is a fine example. But examples are here very many. Landslides are here very common. Trees are depleted on highlands which hold the soil.
The soil together.
When you are coming from Kololo, near, this route is not the one going through to the Independence ground, but the other one there, you can see a very high ground with the roots holding the soil together. I stood and looked and said, really, it is true. These trees, because I've never gone to Bugishu, these trees really hold the soil together. Someone should really see it. One should reach that road, going down into Ginger Road from Kololo, not the one from in the Independence ground. You can see the roots holding the soil together really. And really get surprised with how God created nature. Very simple trees can stop landslides. So, human activity is almost making the carrying capacity of the environment impossible. It is no longer, we are about on tipping point, because we are fighting with nature, in Guterres' words. We are fighting with nature. And I don't know why people don't stone hills and decide to destroy the wetlands, because it is a soft target. They are cheap, and someone sells it to you in the dry season, because it is and fun enough, it is path dependency. Path dependency is someone adopting a behavior because it is easy. I have a friend who showed me all of his plots were in wetlands. The school, a plot in Gayaza, in Namasuba, and but I was following him as a friend and his an opinion order, but I lost my enthusiasm. It is a path dependence, as we shall see on the solution, when we are talking about the solution.
And thank you for sharing with us those effects, because many of us might be thinking it's just a simple thing as just plants, but it's good that you have shared with us the overarching effects that will come from destroying things like forests, from destroying things like wetlands, and then from polluting the air. And I remember a report about how Kampala's air quality is not good, and that has led to issues of asthma arising in children in Kampala and Wakiso. So it is something that we need to be very careful and very vigilant about if indeed we are going to have a future for ourselves, for our children, and for our children's children, like Mr. Erisa mentioned. And so we have discovered that the problem is human activity.
Human activity.
Their effects are things like floods, things like landslides, things like air pollution that lead to asthma. So what then is the solution? What needs to be done? From one, because a lot of people will be quick to say government to Yambu, but government has their part to play in this, and we shall discuss. But starting with us as individuals, what can we do to protect our environment? But two as well, what does the government need to do? How can we work together with the government to ensure that environmental degradation is not a reality in our country?
I have to go back a bit and really to comprehend the problem. About 100 years ago, of course I was not there, Edgar was not there, Africa was called a dark continent. Edgar, do you know why?
Because it was, the missionaries, the colonialists, or the powers that be at the time, largely didn't know much about Africa, but also Africa was mostly covered with forests and with a lot of bushes.
It was covered with the forests, really. That's the most important point. For them, they came here, they were fearing even to enter at Indian Ocean there. It was dark, really. It was full of forests. And one time, about 100 years ago, the whole world was covered with the forests. And God, that's how it arranged it. But then came the industrial period, about 19th century. That's when our forests here started getting destroyed. By the about 100 years ago, Africa still had about 40% cover of forests. But now you can see Uganda, here in the article of Nature fought back. In Uganda, the forest cover is now 8%.
Can you imagine?
8%. When you travel to Luwero, when I was a kid, I used to, even buses sometimes were not passing and the forest, but now you can't see. My child asked me when he saw about 5 trees of eucalyptus, is this a forest? Is this I told no, the forests don't look like that. But I had no example. So we have really destroyed the forest cover, 40% gone. And the solution is, for example, the Nkuka was about restoration of forests. You know what Nkuka is?
What's Nkuka?
Nkuka is the first festival on 31st to 1st of another December, January in Rubiri. And the issue was reforestation. That is one of the solutions. The Kabaka is really institutionalizing environmental education or reforestation. As we are going to see, the solution is adequate environmental education. There are other solutions like reforestation, which is emphasized by the Kabaka now. Another solution is conservation. But the solution is sustainable development through adequate environmental education. Sustainable development through adequate environmental education.
Can you take us through that? Who is doing this environmental education? What does it entail? And what do you mean when you say sustainable development through environmental education?
Now, let me break it into two. First of all, education, we are going to use it to learn how to protect the environment. Learning as a teacher is permanent change in behavior. This time, you want a permanent change to green behavior. Green behavior is caring for the environment as the first priority in every strategy in your life. That is our aim. Environmental education is going to lead us to green behavior, to lead us to sustainable development. Sustainable development is using the environment or the resources in the environment sparingly for the next generations, so that you don't compromise survival of next generation, of next life. Now Uganda has no more forest cover. So we are not caring for our children and our grandchildren.
So on the subject of behavior, one of the reasons why there is a high environmental degradation, again, human activity, but this human activity is got from the need to survive.
Yes.
For instance, a good example is Mavira Forest. One of the reasons why we are losing a lot of trees in Mavira Forest is because people are carrying out charcoal, the making of charcoal, which they sell to sustain a living. So when you say green behavior, what does this mean? And is this behavior which we can maintain whilst finding means of sustaining ourselves economically? Because if people do not have the means to take care of their families, then we are surely going to continue to see environmental degradation.
Now, Edgar, even if you are hungry, there is poison, and there is no food, can you really eat poison?
No.
Because you want to survive.
No.
So I'm comparing environmental degradation, like a deforestation, as eating poison when you are hungry. Because it is going to fight back, and it's going to destroy you whether you are hungry or not. You'd rather die of hunger, not of poison. Why am I saying like that? Forests, we get medicine from forests. We are looking for COVID medicine. Doctor who? His name was gone. He discovered that medicine of COVID which was taking us, and it was really cure from forests. Forests absorb 80% of the carbon dioxide is from the environment. And all of you know, you can't say you don't know, they are not biologists, that oxygen comes from forests, the oxygen we believe we breathe. If the forests are finished, within a year, all of us will be finished, because it gives plants, give us oxygen we breathe, and it takes out the carbon dioxide so that we survive.
What is green behavior now? What kind of practices do we need to adopt to ensure that we protect this environment that is crucial to us?
First and foremost, we must learn. We must be educated. Our mindset must change and know that when you degrade the environment, you are eating poison. For example, know that forests are supposed to be used sustainably. When you reach a forest as big as a football field, please cut only trees which are harvestable. It is very easy to see. But when you cut all, in history you call it tobacco scorched policy, where you can clear every life in war. That is scorched policy. Use the forest sustainably so that the future generation will use it also. And when you cut a tree, please plant a tree. That is about deforestation. Don't cut everything. Cut only which is harvestable. And plant. Please plant. When you cut, plant. Don't go there to cut and make lorries and lorries of fuel, ferry them to Kampala without planting more. And LOCs and so are the ones to enforce such a thing. Wetlands. Why do you, an opinion leader, like a billionaire, why do you plan, why do you fill wetlands with soil to construct? Why don't you buy land on a hill and construct there? You are constructing because for you won't sleep in those houses. You leave people with malaria, with the cholera, with the typhoid, and so on. You run around and make your money. That's not green behavior. And when you are cutting trees for building, clearing forests for agriculture, preservingly for the next generation. Now you can move trees no longer seen anywhere because it was golden and mahogany. You can't meet it. Why do people even cut which ones are young to produce the seeds? That's unsustainable. And they're the opinion leaders, the worst thing. For example, if I go with my dad in a forest and he cuts every tree and it becomes almost a playing field, I will do that in the future. Charity begins at home. And we learn by example. We see their opinion leaders. I have a model here about adequate green behavior in society. And it starts with adequate institutionalized environmental education. Institutionalizing is making every institution, even the family. For example, here, there would be a poster, protect the environment. It would be here, in the State House, on the roads, in the playing fields, Wankulukuku, the Mandela Stadium, in hospitals, everywhere they would be protect the environment so that we institutionalize adequate environment education, especially at a younger age. Charity begins at home.
And on the same subject of behavior, why is it this not happening? Is it that people are not prioritizing the issue of environmental degradation, and why is this?
The problem starts in the beginning, for example, at home. When you send your child to go and take flying toilets and throws them in the water channel, when you tell your child to cut mangoes and forests to make charcoal, when you degrade the wetland, and you are an opinion leader, you have started showing all people that it is not important, it is okay. I have opinion leaders. I have the opinion leaders include millionaires. I can't go from them because whatever they do, we think it is correct. About the environment, it is not correct. We have media. You, the media, like I told you, someone was praising a rich man who was fighting with the Rusizi for filling the wetlands. Media. Whenever you talk about, make research, please, make a study, so that you don't mislead the population about something which is an emergency for survival of human nature. We have security. The security should also be caring about the environment because people believe in them. We have educators, like me, a teacher. For example, in the biology syllabus, in O-level and A-level, ecology and environment protection is the last chapter, and people rarely reach it. Teachers always, they don't reach the last chapter.
That's right. Actually, when I was in school, I don't remember us learning about environmental protection at all.
It is true. It is not prioritized from the beginning. Someone might end in S4. If it ends with a good knowledge about environmental protection, that's a good beginning. Educators must prioritize environmental education. Politicians, legislators, you find them, they pretend before the votes come, election, they protect the environment. Go from wetlands. When the time for election comes, they say, build, I will protect you. Because that's the research I made. And one a citizen told me that we were told to build here in the wetlands by mayor. That your easy votes, don't go away, build, I will protect you. You see such a thing. Opinion leader, politicians, legislators, executive, they don't mention about it because it is their votes. We have policy makers, institutions, heads of families. We should, from the beginning, you see, we have a saying in Uganda that when you bend an old tree, it breaks. So from the beginning, from youth, we teach children about environmental protection because it is a time bomb. The earth is almost at tipping point. It has no more else to put us. I saw a gentleman here who was saying, let Africa transit from renewables at own pace. Such statements are misguiding because the whites is putting it on the colonialists that they are the ones who caused disease. But for them, they can survive. They are the fittest. And you know, during an emergency, the unfit are eliminated. That's how natural selection comes about. The unfit are eliminated. And
those who are lower in the food chain.
Yes, they survive. For example, the whites, they make a lot of research. We don't make research. Now, a topic comes from Gundi at own pace. We shall not survive. We have cut all the forests. Bazungu like Germany have a lot of forests. Now we are cutting them because we must take our own pace. We shall not survive. Now opinion leaders like media, please institutionalize environmental education so that we survive. We are planting forests, reforesting, but someone will come, a president or a politician or a mayor, and says, no, cut the forest. Where's the proof that they provide oxygen and carbon dioxide? Because he's not educated about it. It is not in his mind. It is not his priority. we must really have a mind change, a positive mind change of environmental wellness through adequate environmental education.
And that includes you touched on an important subject there of renewable resources. So something that, and that's a big discussion that we have been having. For instance, when it comes to the oil sector, there's a big conversation happening in the world right now about moving away from depending on oil. But even before we get to renewable sources, I want to hear your take on, remember last year there was a bit of a debate on the East African crude oil pipeline, where environmentalists were saying that that pipeline is going to lead to environmental degradation, but our government was saying they did the research, they have done their findings, and they feel like that pipeline will not cause a problem to environment. What's your take on that?
I gave you an example of Bolsonaro, who has just who has just
lost the election.
The election is to
president of Brazil.
Yes, Livano is called,
Yes.
Is the one in power. Bolsonaro declared using the forests for agricultural and industrial development. Now that issue,
In particular, the Amazon forest,
which provides 80% of the oxygen we breathe, and he was an opinion leader. He has a gun, he controls security. Now, how can you start talking about that issue unless it is general education, adequate education? Go with a poster and tell someone to put it in his office so that whenever he comes, he sees it. You educate his mind, otherwise he'll finish you. Now when you go to an issue which is very important of oil production in, where is it is called what? In Bunyoro there. When you start talking about its disadvantages, you are finishing yourself. It is now the priority, we are in a crisis, we don't have money, we expect that is the golden egg. But when you educate the president about importance of green energy, slowly by slowly, you don't go to it with the full force. You must first educate the opinion leader or the head of the project. Otherwise you are finished. But it is very obvious that it is not a renewable resource. Within 10 years, oil will be finished. The tourism industry will be gone, which is a renewable resource, because I'm sure now all the animals, the lions, the what, when you cut the forest to start digging wells, they escape. And it is a renewable resource. Oil, when it goes, doesn't come back. It is very obvious. And in pollution, we have marine and sea pollution, where we see there's oil being spilled in water sources. Organisms are all living things, won't survive there, so they will escape. The forest will go. Tourism is an industry which earns Uganda, I think, most income right now, and it is renewable. After 20 years, it will be gone. But I'm not. You are the one. I'm telling you. I'm not telling the nation. For you to tell it, you go and make research. But that is what I see as an environmentalist and a researcher. It is not a renewable resource. It is dangerous to the renewable resource of tourism and so forth, displacing people. But now we don't have money. What do we do? That is our question. We don't have money. There is a crisis in the country, and it's the only golden egg, a hen which is going to lay golden eggs. So it is up to you to decide whether to eat poison because you are hungry or to be patient and eat good food, because one can survive without food for 10 days, taking water only. But if you are very greedy, you can go for poison. And because it looks like a food and it is how it smells well, otherwise one would be patient for just a few days and go for the good food.
And
but I don't want to go anymore in that topic. of that fuel. But when we talk about renewable resources or green energy, generally, it is wonderful. It is even cheaper. For example, solar in the house, you put it there. Electricity, you can see how cheap it is. That is a clean energy or green energy.
Maybe it's time that we also join the bandwagon and move into renewable energy so that our environment is protected, especially for the future. So I am having a great discussion on this with my guest, Mr. Weraga Erisa, who is a senior environmentalist. We've been talking about renewable sources of energy, Mr. Erisa. What do we mean when we talk about renewable sources of energy?
There's renewable sources of energy are not replenishable. For example, when you put a solar panel on your house, solar energy is a type of renewable source of energy. You take engineers, they put solar panels on top of your house. You'll use it and use it and use it and just replace them when they're old, replace the batteries. But another renewable source of energy like fossil energy, which includes diesel, petrol, they are dug from the ground. But most wells last for only 5 to 10 years. They are not renewable. We have a lot of many renewable sources of energy. We have wind energy. You see on some, I don't have even a passport, but my brother was in Germany. On hills there are many, you see people,
the windmills.
Windmills on many hills, that is wind energy. It is a renewable source of energy. It does not get finished. Fossil energy is the one which gets finished. Fossil is a word which we learned many years ago. They were organisms, plants and animals. They died and the soil covered them under the ground there. So they are fossils. That is, they became energy, oil or petroleum and so on. That is fossil energy we are talking about. Renewable energy is this natural energy, geothermal energy, tidal from tides, hydro energy, electricity is also renewable energy or green energy. They are generally termed clean energy. The dam in Jinja was constructed, I think, in 1954.
Yes.
But it is still there. But nowhere of petroleum can last for 10 years. Maximum is 10 years. But you can see that water comes and drives the turbines. It produces electricity. It goes, it comes back. It is renewable. For years and years, it will never end. But renewable energy is short-term, short-living. I mean, fossil energy is short-living. Renewable energy or clean energy or green energy is permanent. Those include solar energy, wind energy, hydro energy, that one of Ginger, tidal energy, and geothermal energy. Those are the type of energies which last forever. They don't get finished. I think that was the question about
Yes, yes, indeed. And now the question is can we adopt these forms of renewable sources of energy that we may not have? Because, like you said, the question is always between development economically and protecting the environment. How can we balance the two?
Now this is a dilemma, because the road to go is sustainable development. We have seen that this fossil energy, like from oil and petroleum, the one in Bunyoro, it pollutes the environment, first and foremost. Second, it is not renewable. Those two factors, polluting the environment and not being renewable, it means, as I called it, poison. When you invest in it now, you are the one who is not waiting, being patient, and eating poison.
Mr. Erisa, you understand that for many families, they focus, and as Ugandans, this is a character trait that we have to change. Many people focus on the now. If my family wants to eat, and I'm looking at trees from which I can make charcoal, I will think about the now. I don't have the luxury of thinking about 30 years from now whether there will be enough forest cover. I have to think about the now in terms of ensuring that I feed my family. And that's why you see, as much as we might have environmental education to many people of the population, they are still going to have to make that hard. Actually, it's not a hard choice for sure, because they're going to have to make that choice between my family is hungry, I can feed them, this is the only avenue, or even the government faces that same dilemma that we need money, we are not paying teachers enough salaries, we need some form of generation of income, and now that we have found oil, we can produce oil that can produce products like fuel, like petroleum products, to ensure that the economy is up and running. So it seems like one of the solutions, apart from environmental education, is to ensure that we take care of that side of ensuring that the economy in other ways is built up, that people have solutions, especially financial solutions, so that people don't think about hurting the environment. Isn't that so?
It is so, but I still believe that when the opinion leaders and opinion leaders, as I mentioned them, media, politicians, heads of family, heads of state, like I was very pleased by the big man. He said that slowly by slowly, these motorcyclists will be bringing the fossil fuel motorcycles and replacing them for free with electric ones. That is already a solution for survival. And that's very good. It is a dilemma, because now fuel will be coming from Bunyoro. And again, electric motorcycles will be the ones on the road. So you can see how big a dilemma this is. But all the same, if it is the means of survival, the road of survival now is renewable energy, green energy. Within 15 years in America, all the vehicles will be electric. We have Tondeko Entebbe Road. An electric battery is charged and it lasts, they told me, 300 kilometers. So you can see it has even started here. So, you see, there's what is called path dependency. A certain man made research, and it was the hinge of my research on changing mindset about environmental education. You see, people have invested heavily in fossil energy, and industries using fuel and so on. Now, like it or not, we must make a shift and go to renewable energy, because it is the only way to survive. It is the only way to survive, because why do you build a lot, and then it is destroyed all of a sudden, with the consequences of environmental degradation, like epidemics, the cancers. You've made a big industry using fuel and so on, then the cancer kills you, like the landslides, like oxygen getting finished on planet Earth, and we all die and we leave the buildings there because we want to survive on fossil energy. Like it or not, the only way I know people can survive if we shift to renewable energy or clean energy. People will survive. The other side is just impatience and lack of research. The other side of fossil energy is impatience and lack of research. But when opinion leaders, like the president, said he's going to slowly fill the cities with electric motorcycles by method of bring your motorcycle, which is fossil energy, for free, get an electric one. You can see the mindset. When he gets that mindset, we have won the war. Because the big man is the leader of opinion leading in Uganda. He has got the idea. Very soon he will say, I think we go slow on that fossil energy industry because it has no future. Japan, by 10 years to come, 50% of the vehicles will be electric. China, which was stubborn on environment, it is now the biggest producer of solar energy, China. solar energy is a source of income and a source of survival. So like it or not, we must go the right way. We shall not eat poison when we can be patient for 2 days only. That's my view. It is the only way forward.
So, in closing, what should we take away from this discussion when it comes to the effects of environmental degradation? How can we be part of the solution and not the problem?
The only way to be part of the solution, the opinion leaders, like politicians, like billionaires, like security, educators, legislators, policymakers, institutions, family heads, don't misguide your followers. Tell them that the only way to survive, for human nature to survive, is environmental wellness. We must, when you protect the environment, you have protected your life. When you don't, you have destroyed your own life. You've eaten poison. The only way is for opinion leaders not to misguide the nation or the population or human nature about wellness of the environment. The environment supports us when we support it. When we don't support it, it fights back, as we've seen in Vision today. And in Guterres' words, when we fight nature, it fights us. We shall only survive when we protect the environment, and our priority becomes sustainable development. Development which cares for tomorrow's generations.
Definitely, and so it's important that we take that into consideration. Actually, not to take that into consideration, that we practice sustainable development when it comes to the usage of nature. Let's avoid misuse because, like Mr. Erisa said, misuse leads to degradation and leads to problems with our future when it comes to this good earth that God has given us. Thank you so much, Mr. Weraga Erisa, for taking us through the effects of environmental degradation and sensitizing us on how we need to be the protectors and defenders of our environment.
Thank you, Edgar.
My pleasure. My pleasure. And the conversation, of course, continues, because for us here on Church of Uganda Family TV, we are big on ensuring that as families, we are doing the right thing. So, as families, let us protect the environment together. You heard Mr. Erisa talking about heads of families. We need to disciple our wives, our children, on the fact that we need to protect our environment. And so in so doing, we shall help change the mindsets of many people, many Ugandans in our society. Thank you for joining us on Issues at Hand today. We shall return tomorrow. For now, let's go in for a coffee break. But God richly bless you.